One, two. Mic check. One, two. Make sure we live. All right. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This is Jamil Salibs of me out of Manning, South Carolina. As promised, I would come back on with another timely topic, commentary. Today, we're talking about arrested development. And I knew when I came on with the broadcast that when I was given the insight as to what I'm supposed to talk about on this particular broadcast, I knew most people, for those who knew, would be thinking about the television series Arrested Development. But the television series Arrested Development was really telling a story of adults who were not living as adults. Their minds had been stunted and their thought patterns were still in whatever stage of life that they were frozen. This is a psychological commentary, but I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, or any brain doctor of any kind. So I'm not talking about this from that perspective. I'm talking about it from the perspective of what's going on in our communities, what's going on in our homes, what's going on with our children, and what has happened with the adults and what happened with the elders and why we are at this point right now. So this is a very serious topic. I'm going to take my time with it, but I'm asking that you give me an hour. The nerve of me to try and do a broadcast 7:33 on a Saturday night when everybody is, either out doing something, getting into trouble, smoking something, thinking of something, preparing for something. But this is the time that I got prepared. I was early today, but I got so tired. I got tired from studying so much. So we're going to go into this subject, but we're going to come out of a lot of different medical journals in order to talk about arrested development. But I want to read something first. I wrote it down just now, and I can't even read my own writing, but I'm going to try to read it. And this is going to be the basis of what we're talking about today. So, because we're talking about our people, we're talking about Black people, we're talking about this generation, we're talking about what's going on in society. There has been over 10 to 15 shootings from Manning to Sumter in the last week. Some of the videos are so disturbing. I experienced it right here in my own community, right next door. And unfortunately, there's nothing good happening after dark. So you got adults out after dark starting trouble, and then whether the person wins or lose, doesn't matter. They decide 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're going to come drive by, shoot up a house. But with the incident in Sumter recently, they shot the wrong person. They shot up the wrong car, and a person is dead and another person injured because of mistaken identity. The subject in itself disturbs me because no one wants to take responsibility for what has been done or what is being done. Very few people are willing to take the responsibility of what's occurring and why it's occurring, which is why we're talking about today arrested development, how emotionally broken people keep the cycle of ignorance alive. So I'm going to read this real quick. Something I wrote down, it came to my mind. Slavery, arrested development. During the time of slavery, like this generation thinks that their people, Black people, enslaved people, never fought, never sacrificed, never gave their life. So you see them making comments like, we ain't our ancestors, we fight back. Well, in all of the fight, first of all, yeah, you're not your ancestors because you don't fight for the right reason. You're not fighting for freedom. You're fighting for the right to do anything you want to do when you want to do it. That's anarchy. That's not freedom. Any home must have rules. Any community must have rules that are followed, that are implemented, and that are understood, that this makes the community, the home, the mind cannot handle radical thought. A computer cannot handle radical thought. That's called a virus. So the virus has to be captured and isolated And if the virus is not captured and isolated, it will run amok in the computer and cause it to slow down, cause you to lose information. All of these things occur in the computer. So our brain is the computer. Now, during slavery, here you have a people who fought, freed people who were enslaved. And this is the psychological damage that was done then. Even our time in Akibulan, what we refer to as Africa, and different tribes during that period thinking one was better than the other. But this is the thing. After being captured and enslaved in this country called America on Turtle Island, which belonged to the natives, Black folks continually tried to be free. Each time we tried to free ourselves, the punishment was worse. Each time we tried to do something for ourselves, the punishment got worse and worse, till it got to a point where we were placed in a hypnotic state of suspended animation, which means we no longer wanted to deal with reality. If you look at the movie Roots, you'll see this young slave Kunta Kinte, who refused to call himself Toby, but he was beaten for such a long period of time, almost to death, that he said, okay, I'm Toby. Toby's the supposed to be wife of Toby, Kunta Kinte, in their homeland was Fanta. Toby never gave up the idea of one day finding his enslaved wife, Fanta. When Toby found Fanta, he went to the slave master's barn. He told her why he came. She told him, I don't want to hear nothing about no Allah. I don't want to hear nothing about no Africa, no God. Master so-and-so is my master now. And it got so bad with him trying to force her to leave. She screamed, he got caught, and his foot was cut off. That's the type of punishment that we had to endure. So we're trying, and we're made each time to submit. And in submitting, we go further and further away from our own reality and further into someone else's reality. So while we're in this other reality, we make that reality our home. So this place called Turtle Island became America, and the enslaved people were gradually allowed to be free after it was solidified that they would no longer rebel against the ex-slave master. That's called being put in a state of arrested development, where the development of the human being in each stage of life is thwarted so many times that we resort back to one period of life where we feel comfortable. We never leave that stage of life. If you are abandoned, or you are abused, or you are harmed in any way at a certain age, the mind can no longer leave that stage. So we begin to be 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old children. Now, the Caucasian knows this. That was the plan. The plan was to make us dependent so that even in rebellion, we had no plan. We had no weapons. We had no ability to do anything. So we ended up being captured over and over again, placed in a deliberate state of arrested development. So this is where we are. We talk on Facebook like we own it. You don't own it. You use it. We drive around in nice cars like we own it. You don't own it. You use it. We are a consumer people. I'm coming to a point. We're talking about arrested development. We're talking about how our emotionally broken people keep going through the same cycle. Now, we're in this country called America. It is our home now. But we're in it so deep, and I want you to take a look at this real close for a minute, that all we can do now is get a piece of the American pie. So what we do is we study in American colleges so that we can use our skills to help America grow. We join America's armies so that we can use our skills to keep America safe. We join Americans' idea of God so that in that idea of God, we will be supported by America and appear to succeed. So anyone that steps out of the normal of American life is stuck in a state of arrested development, because it's going to take you a lot to escape it. And then it's going to take even more to build a life outside of it, outside of the Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, jobs, clothing, because we don't manifest any of this. We don't make any of this stuff. We are consumers. We make the American money to buy American products or Japanese products or Russian products. That's what we do. So we're like little children. Our education, whether it's a black college or a white college, comes from America's mind. So we are in a state of arrested development. Don't matter if you're a bum on the corner or rather you are educated, intelligent professor, or rather you are a pastor. Everything that we have been forced to learn is based upon them. You couldn't go to school as a black person without being monitored by whites. You couldn't go to church as a black person with all black people without a white person in that church making sure that you didn't teach anything of independence. This is not racism. I'm coming to a point. This is all going to make sense in a minute. So we built an American dream on the back of our nightmare. One of the main pictures of slavery that still circulates on the internet is the black man with his back turned and the images of all of the beatings he took from his slave masters. We built another world on our bruised and broken back. Now listen to what the scripture says about that. I'm going to go to Matthew 7:27, 7:24 through 27. We're in the New International Version. 12 minutes in, we're doing great. This is the wise and the foolish builder. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the wind blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall. That is a solid foundation. That foundation that God is saying, Jesus is saying to build your house upon is the foundation of truth. The foundation of the reality of where you are, what you must do. If they got a hospital, we need a hospital. They got a gas station, we need a gas station. The Chinese understand that. The Mexican understands that. The black man understands it to a degree, but he is unable to manifest no matter what his level of education. He still works for this world. Then the rain came, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. Our house, rich house, poor house, political house, house of faith, all built on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it all fell with a great crash. So the elders who followed this system and fought for this system, the elders who thought that they were building a future for the children, built the house on sand. And from the 1555, the time that we arrived here as freed black people, native people, to the time we were enslaved up until now, we built the house on sand, right? And the elders thought that through the marches, through the voting, through the getting rights amended and all these things, that the children would take advantage of all of that difficulty that they went through. But all of it was built on sand. And as the scripture says, the rain came. The rain is new suggestive ideas of who we are. So through the years, we became Black, Afro-Americans, African-Americans. And now we just don't claim nothing. But no matter what our title, we were never freed to do the things that a free people would do. We are under a state of arrested development. I'm going to explain to you what arrested development is, and it's going to make a whole lot of sense, God willing. Religion, the same. If you claim anything outside of the Christianity that you were taught, if you claim anything outside of the white imaginary Christ that was presented, then you are ostracized no matter what you do. I am a living example of helping Christians because I'm a Christian, of helping other sects of Islam because I'm a Muslim. And how we just met a lady at a graduation who was talking about Jehovah's Witness. And the last thing came out of her mouth is, everybody going to die. Only people going to see heaven is the Jehovah's Witness. Same thing with the Christians. Only people going to see heaven is the Christian. Same thing with all the sects of Islam. Only people going to see heaven is the Shiite, the Black Muslim, the so-and-so. So we compartmentalized ourselves and we accept evil because evil claims to be that thing that we represent. So the church is filled with evil, and the church is filled with contrary behavior to the Bible, but nobody in the church will speak out against it. Nobody. So in not representing God properly, building your house on sand, it crumbles. So the children that you see now out there shooting and killing and they are possessed by the devil. They are possessed by the devil of this world and the devil of impulse and the devil of desire. That's who they are, because they accept none of the truth that we try to present to them. None of it. Because there is no group from Christian to Muslim, especially in the South, that will stick together under the banner of righteousness and God. So the people are in a state of arrested development. You saw it in the election last year. The last election in South Carolina. Most people didn't even vote because they didn't know how to vote. It's going to be worse this year. But I want to read something to you out of Hosea real quick. Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I also reject you as my priests. Because you have ignored the law of your God, I also will ignore your children. So our children have no connection to God. Guns are their God. Education is their God. Sexual freedom is their God. Drugs is their God. Impulse is their God. Liquor is their God. Anything they're big and bad enough to do is their God. And anytime a person has no shame for what they do, they are a devil. Devils have no shame. They have absolutely no shame. But check this out. Because the parents were in a state of arrested development, acting like children themselves, the parents back the children in their foolishness. So now we got a evident generation of total rebellion against God. That's this generation. They're going to die and they're going to kill. They're going to die from gun violence, disease, police violence, self-inflicted violence, drugs. They're going to die. They have to die. But they're going to take so many of us with them. Because we are either so afraid of them. You're going to die anyway, so why not go out fighting? Because they have no respect for the elders. Not even the OGs and the gangsters. These old gangsters who destroyed the neighborhood in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they on the internet snitching on themselves for $1, telling everything they can tell and influencing the young to do worse than they did. So in places like Manning, there are no people who have built their foundation on solid rock. They built it on sand, and they hid the pain of the people because they're trying to attract people because they want to have people follow them. We're living in a dangerous time now. Now, I passed through Manning last night at the roundabout on near Bellwood, you know where the roundabout is. And I saw so many advertisements for people who are running for political office. We're talking about arrested development. I'm going to get into the definition in a minute. I saw so many people in there. Trust in integrity, trust in someone who fights for the people, trust for this, believe in this, vote for me, vote Democrat, vote Republican. And I thought to myself, who put these signs out here? Where are these people in the community when we're trying to have community events? You know who I see in the community? I see the police. I see the sheriff's department. I see fire and rescue. Those are the people. And I see people who fix on the roads and people who pick up trash. But these quote unquote politicians who love the people. Now, I understand you're only one or two people. But out of all the killings and shootings that we had in the last couple of weeks, from Richland to Manning to Summerton, I ain't hear none of y'all speak out about nothing. But I see you asking for a check in a box so that you can retain your job, your pension, your money, to the disgrace of the communities that you claim to represent. We went through an upscale community today on our way to a college graduation, leaving out of Manning, and they had a street sweeper on the side of the road, sweeping that area out. There is always going to be arrested development where someone wants to be better than the other person. God does not approve of it at all. But this is where we are. So they're asking for your vote, and you're going to give it to them because you give them personality. I like them. I like them. That's my friend. But you never ask them, what are you going to do for the people? See, your vote is valuable. What does your vote get for the people? That's what they work for us. But they have us thinking, some of us, that we work for them. Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter. What are you doing? And I'm telling you that they are in a stage of many of them are in stages of arrested development. When I read it, you're going to see it. Sick in the head. And rest assured that I don't call people sick without getting myself checked out. I just had my first appointment at the mental health on Friday and made another appointment for June the 11th. Because I got to know how to deal with so much betrayal from people. Holy people. I mean, I've worked with preachers and pastors that are just devils, man. But they got stuff. So you take them as the good person. And they talk that God talk and flash that stuff they got. And you really think they are the one. Their house is built on sand. All we got to do is live long enough to prove it. That's all. And if I die today, it's still the truth. The politicians the same. I'm getting it together. I'm working on it. I'm for the people. Integrity. Ask them, what do you mean by integrity? What is it that you are working on? Prove the lie, and God will back you. Now, I'm living the rest of my life to prove that God is real, but it's not the God of this world. because this is Satan's world. The book says it. If I could find it, I wish I could. Let's see. In the Bible. And then after this, we're going to get into Arrested Development for the rest of the commentary. But I want to be able to let's look at 2 Corinthians 4:4. 2 Corinthians 4:4. If I can get now they're running me around on it. I apologize, but I'm going to try one more time to get it. I might just go 2 Corinthians 4:4. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Let me do that real quick. 2 Corinthians. I'm always saying 2 Corinthians. Yeah. Let's do this right here. And then we'll get into the rest of the subject. So I don't want you all to think I just be talking, man. Sometimes y'all just think I'm being bitter, but I am brokenhearted. I am hurt from all that we did and have done in the community, and how these devils will get together and talk about you and dog you. And because they got more stuff, you believe that they're right, and the person who don't have nothing ain't right. But the person who has little, who sacrifices the most, I don't believe that God is going to leave him out there by himself. I don't believe that. And it's time for us to prove that, because the hypocritical nature of some of our Christian family is ridiculous. The God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. All truth. Our children are in trouble, and it all leads from Arrested Development. Now I want to get into Arrested Development so we can get into this thing. Are you in a relationship with someone who hesitates to take responsibility or make commitments? Do you know a grown person who behaves more like a child or a teen? Arrested development is a term that describes this condition. It arises when a person is stuck. At an early phase of emotional development, causes of arrested development vary. I have several sons who are stuck, and a daughter, and myself. I found that out, that I'm stuck. So I wanted to share that. I want to share my psychological journey. This psychological phenomenon describes people who fail to progress emotionally, socially, or psychologically beyond a certain point in their lives. This stagnation can have profound effects on their overall well-being and relationships. Everything that I talked about prior to giving the definition of arrested development, go back and listen to it. Now let's read some causes of arrested development. Arrested development can result from trauma, grief, or neglect. It may occur when a child, preteen, or adolescent is subject to an experience that they are unable to resolve. This sometimes happens due to the lack of parental nurturing. If the child doesn't get the nurturing required, their psychological development may not move ahead. They get stuck. In fact, they may remain frozen at that stage. They are into adulthood. That stage they are into adulthood and beyond. Many children have been molested, and they get hooked on drugs and drinking and partying and sex because they are stuck in a state of arrested development. But let me tell you about our preachers who molest our young girls, who molest our young boys. Let me tell you about them so-called uncles and great uncles and granddaddies who molest their children. And the child gets stuck in a state of arrested development and get addicted to drug and fast living and never leave that stage of childhood, wanting love, but not understanding what love is. It's the world that we live in. So that's why I say we're building our whole life on a lie. Let me tell you about the preacher's wife who catch her husband downstairs in the basement with another man and got to keep it quiet to keep the church rolling. Let me tell you about the politicians who got extra wives and extra husbands and extra same sex, but got to keep the ball rolling and continue talking out of their mouth. Let me tell you about the people who are sex addicts and party addicts, all that we are voting for under the title of integrity and for the people. But they are still in a state of arrested development, and nobody is praying for the well-being and the growth and the spiritual breakthrough. And that's what they call it in spirituality, a breakthrough. That's when you become unstuck. But you can't become unstuck if you're lying to yourself. Now, let's go on a little bit. We're 30 minutes in. We're doing great. Adult children who remain in a dependent or codependent relationship with a parent often experience arrested development. We got people in our community shooting guns, stone cold killers, but stay at home. Banging and all of that, but stay at home under mama. I got a son who be cussing his mama out, but won't leave her house. Arrested development. And until we attack the problem, because we think Jesus gonna fix it, the Lord gonna fix it, and he will. But prayers without works are no good. So we pray a lot, shout a lot, scream a lot, but we do not address the issue. We got motivational speakers whose children are hell on wheels, causing trouble in the community, but you wouldn't know it because they are in a state of denial, stuck, arrested development. Let me tell everybody else how to raise their children, but don't you talk about my children, though. Same thing in the churches. The preacher want to tell you everything, but when you got something to tell him, oh, that's a rebellious devil. He's a sinner. He talks back. We're going to crush all of this. We're going to burn all of it from the ground down, from the sky down to the ground, from the ground up. And by burn, I mean we're going to pull the sheet back. If you notice in the Olympics, before they start, they pass a torch. We're going to pass a torch. And each person got to carry the torch until they can't carry it anymore, until we ignite the big flame. Remember, the scripture says it won't be water, but fire next time. The children, they may be unwilling to assume adult responsibilities and may refrain from or delay marrying, having children, or buying a home. Look at our adults out there, man. I'm going to be a player all my life, man. Old dudes, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, got their pants sagging. I'm telling you what I see. Mentally ill. And a mentally ill person who don't even know their own identity cannot identify with any God. Any God that we identify with is the God we made up in our own mind. And the Bible talks about the mind and how we make up things in our mind. See if I can find something about it. Bible talking about the mind. No, you know what? I don't even have to do that. All I got to punch in is this quote that everybody say: lean not onto thy own understanding. That is talking about the mind. And see, what we do is we get what we perceive as a vision, and we start talking about what the Lord tell me and what the Lord say, and the Lord say you a bad person, and we destroy people, good people. But the book says, man, oh man. Is that Proverbs? Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. See? How is God directing our path when we're not speaking about the sins in the church, the crime in the community, the crime in politics? Why no politician talked about the killings and shootings and drive-by shootings in communities that you will bring your raggedy behind or send a constituent to put a poster in the ground but you don't speak out against what's going on. And yet your hypocritical tongue says, I'm for the people. Black, white, Republican, Democrat, independent, green, I don't care. Where are your words? In the beginning was the Word. The Word was God. The Word was with God. Where are your words? I ain't got no time for that. I'm trying to win an election over here. I'm trying to help the people over here. So until I win this election and I know that you voted for me, I don't care if you die or live. See? Arrested development. People are sick. Rather they are educated, rather they are millionaires, white people are sick. They enslaved the people, destroyed the people, and then said, get over it. Get back to your country. They are sick. And then black people follow suit and destroy their own communities and kill their own people. We're sick. But nobody wants to say they're sick. I ain't sick. Nothing wrong with me. I got a degree. I got a Maybach. I got a Mercedes Benz. I'm a preacher. I'm a pastor. I'm a politician. You're sick. We're in a state of arrested development. Let's move on with arrested development. Lord have mercy. Please let me find where I left off. Please let me find where I left off. Other causes of arrested development. Is that it? Yes. Some think that arrested development is an inherent psychological condition, but most believe that it's a child defense against psychological or emotional pain, and that childhood trauma and unsolved issues are often the primary cause of arrested development. I'm telling you that as a young child, I touched on cousins and nephews, and not nephews, but you call them kissing cousins. We messed each other up. Mama say, don't tell nobody. The neighbor molested me and my brother. Don't tell nobody. The neighbor raped my mother and broke her leg. Don't tell nobody. But my mother lived her entire life till she died, God rest her soul, afraid to go outside. And now the N-words are saying, don't snitch, don't snitch. But in the community, you got gangster pedophiles and molesters and rapers. You got politicians molesting and raping. Yes. Criminals talking about integrity. Arrested development. I'm going to do the treatment because I want to get that in before the time is out. Then I'm going to read a strong definition and we're going to close. Being unable to process their grief and may cause them to remain stuck at that emotional age of developmental indefinitely. That means they're going to be there forever. That means you trying to fix your child, but you won't listen to them tell you that Uncle so-and-so been raping me for 20. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. We don't teach our children emotional development, what's going on between their legs. Nobody taught me. I used to look at my aunts, my cousins, everybody. I have sex with any of them if they gave it up. Because nobody taught me. We just ignore every important state or stage of life. And then after you are molested and broken, you told, don't say nothing. Now you got to go. And because you don't understand life in a state of arrested development, now you got to go drink, smoke, or try to find some semblance of normalcy by yourself. So children are raising children. And the scripture says when the blind leads the blind, everybody fall in the ditch. So what you are seeing are the bones falling out of the closets in the black community. These psychopathic killers who worship a gun more than their own life, more than their family, more than their community, and they get praised for it. They put titles to it. And the same thing with the politicians, psychopaths who want praise for, well, look what I did. Look what I've done. But how has it affected the people who voted for you, black or white? You don't come down where we are and explain those things. You just want us to accept what you say on face value. And that time is about up. So arrested development can be fueled by a fear of change and a reluctance to take risk. So you see people like myself who didn't take all of the risks that I should have, because I should be further in life than I am with my business and everything else, but I was afraid to take the risk. Let me give you an example, and this example will apply to you as well. I left high school in '89 with the intentions of going to New York and getting a record contract. Went to New York, didn't get the contract, but I started working in a lawyer's firm. And after I left New York, I came back to Manning, went to Morris College, and continued doing music, and I did get the contract. But when I showed the contract to my sister, baby sister, God rest her soul, these are the words that came out of her mouth. So what? You're going to end up back in Manning anyway. Arrested development. So I got stuck. So a group of people who kicked me out of my own club, I went back to them for support because I was afraid to go for myself, and they didn't like me, and they destroyed it. So I lost the record deal. I got the thing on my wall right now. I'm gonna show it to you one day. Arrested development can be fueled by a fear of change and reluctance to take risks. This fear may stem from a past failures, rejection, or lack of self-confidence. As a result, those who suffer from arrested development may avoid stepping out of their comfort zone, resisting opportunities for personal growth and development. Most people go to college because they think that's what they're supposed to do. And they're good at college because they're comfortable there because everybody did it. But here's the caveat. They are unhappy because that's not what they wanted to do, but that's the path. Most people go to the military for the same reason. But no one takes risks because risks are so unpredictable and unsupported. But without risk, there would be no television, no computer, no airplane, no nothing. So we are all under a state of arrested development, trying to find our place in a world that was built by someone else who took risks. We don't get credit for someone else who took risks. The fear of change acts as a barrier, keeping them trapped in a state of emotional and social stagnation. So what you think they're going to want to do? But get high, get drunk, party. You got 50 and 60-year-old people to move into a house and party and party and party. I feel sorry, but they are under a state of arrested development and they act like children. No response. Just you look at the flyers now from 2 o'clock until, we just going to party until we get tired. But what about everybody else in the community? An intelligent adult would have respect for the community. So whites are going and building isolated communities, but the people in there are going to show you that they're suffering from arrested development, just like with The Walking Dead. I don't care how many walls you put up, trouble is coming. Because we don't speak out against trouble. We'd rather build our houses on sand and lies. Young women are getting married and have been raped so many times that they can't even love a man who really loves them. And he got to bang on her hard. And when he gets sensitive, he too soft. He too sensitive. So what did arrested development do? It made our women alpha females. And it got so bad that now they want to be females who are alpha men. They're tougher than we are. And vice versa with the men. Little beta females. Let me tell you, and they're winning. All of the weak men win. Child, girl, they get the top spot. This is a psychological game. Every time we try to climb, any fight that we fight for the right thing, somebody crushes it and we devolve. back to what we know best. You come out of jail from 15 years, and the first place you go is right back to the block where you got busted and try to relive your glory days, which means you're going to get busted again or dead or hooked on drugs. But you cool with that. We're doing good. 45 minutes in. Symptoms and psychological arrest development. There's a treatment. One form of this condition often results in narcissistic personality disorder. You notice people are using narcissism. Everybody a narcissist, but it's true. And to make matters worse, the condition that arise are especially difficult to treat since they are often formed at a very young age. Something happens at a very young age. I was stunned because of the Ku Klux Klan at a very young age. I was stunned by the neglect of my mother at a very young age. I was stunned by realizing that my brother could care less about me at a very young age, and stunned by the lack of caring with my sisters at a very young age. I'm talking about me, but we're talking about everybody. Limited social skills and interpersonal difficulties. I'm going to read this and then we're going to close it down because there's so much to go through. Arrested development. Look up the word and read it. Arrested development often manifest in limited social skills and interpersonal difficulty. What are we doing now? More than anything else, we can threaten people on the internet better than we can threaten them face to face. We just shoot them face to face. We talk more on the internet. And if you look at most people talking, they're talking about not needing friends. Inability to talk to real people. For fear of rejection and other things. People with arrested development may struggle to form and maintain meaningful relationships, lacking the necessary emotional intelligence and social competency to do so. So you see a rise in single mothers who say they don't need no man because they don't know how to be a woman. They think a woman is big lashes, big hair, booty, coochie, nails, toes. So they pack all of this fakeness on and say, I'm a real B. You ain't even close. Not even close. So because they can't be a woman, they marry their children. They want to cling to their sons. They want to make excuses for their sons and turn their sons into exactly what you see out there now. Psychopathic killers and pedophiles and incest and rapists. That's what they are. At 10, 11, 12, 13, crazy will force you to have sex with them. And some of them having sex with their mama. And the mama love it. She cuddle with them. That's her man. It's that sick. But the church ain't going to talk about it. Nobody going to talk about it. We have to pretend that everything is all right. And that's why I don't like politicians. All of the fakery. I don't like actors. Acting preachers, acting people who think they can take your mind away from you by pretending and performing acts of kindness. That don't mean they're a good person. The devil perform acts of kindness. You want weed, he'll get it. You want to get high, he'll get it. He opened up a pipeline to get fentanyl here so black folks can die, he'll get it. So white folks can die, he'll get it. And you said, that's my man. That's the devil. Jesus Christ recognized the devil. God recognized Satan. Whence cometh thou, Satan? But the children of God were walking with Satan and didn't even know it. State of arrested development. God had to point him out. And we walking with Satan right now. And because he got a nice house, nice car, or he can do something for us, get us drugs, some pills, we think they God. But they are the main reason that we are stuck in a state of arrested development. And I'll be honest with you. I can't be honest with you. I won't say it. I ain't going to say it because if something happened, y'all will try to blame me for it. They may find it challenging to connect with others, express their emotions, or empathize with different perspectives. See everything one way. Can't tell them nothing. These social limitations, what I'm trying to tell you, our children are suffering from psychological damage, psychological abuse, and ain't no clothes, ain't no so-called love, ain't no hugs, ain't no giving them everything they want, ain't no threatening them with beatings or threatening them with jail or threatening them with death. They don't care. Life has no value. And that's why, as young as they are, they frighten the old, because our life has value and we don't want to kill them. But they have no problem. And once you kill one, they're going to come running at you like the darn I Am Legend. Just a bunch of night crawlers. Islam teaches us that as a soldier, you got to be able to kill at least 1,000 people, because they're going to come like that. Blood family, everybody. When the war starts, you got to be a soldier in that thing, because they got a lot of people that ain't got nothing going for them but killing. But we can change that. We can change that state of arrested development, but we need real men and real women to stand up and fight against the mind of Satan. Jesus did it. Jesus punked Satan so bad that Satan begged him, don't kill me. Just put me into these pigs over here. And we over here going along with Satan, talking out of our mouths like we gods, getting government grants and getting big buildings like God is with us. But this is Satan's world. Let me read one more thing, then I'm going to stop, because it's so much. It's so much. I wanted to read the definition. Arrested development refers to a condition in which a person's emotional and psychological growth is hindered or halted completely. Some people are 60 years old and are still living in a childhood. You know, a lot of our popular people in school who were popular in school, and then we have a class reunion and they talking at us like they're still in school, about to get their behind toss up because they think their mind is stuck in school. Girls who done run their body into the ground and got to put on a wig and all this makeup and thinking they still pretty and flaunting around with their used up body and thinking that they can still talk to you like you allowed it back then. They're stuck. Halted during one of the normal stages of maturation. This phenomenon can have profound impacts on a person's overall well-being and interpersonal relationships. Today's post focus on the stages of arrested development and the challenges faced by those who experience it. Arrested development is a common challenge, though there is little to no data available regarding the prevalence of it in the general population. No ex-slave was examined to see what slavery did to them, so we don't know how bad it is. No prisoner coming out of prison is examined to see what prison done to them. We don't know how bad it is. So we got a society of sick people. Some dress better than others, so they think they're better. Some more educated, so they think they're better. Some got degrees, so they think they're better. Some think they know God because they read the Bible and think they're better. But when they come before you, oh, no, it's all of us. All of us are the same. They don't mean that, most of them. You can tell by the way, you can't have a two-way conversation with no arrogant pastor. You can't tell him nothing. You can't have a two-way conversation with an arrogant person. And I sit and I watch people. I got Muslim friends, Christian friends, and I ask them, why did you become a Christian? Why did you become a Muslim? And I listen to them tell me, but none of them ever asked me why I chose the path I chose, which means you don't matter, nickel. We matter. They think you're stupid. I told someone my aspirations yesterday, and they said, were you being realistic with your aspirations? Great question. Yes, I was. I was within the realm of my possibilities. Was it within my possible realm? But those who could help me, because they want to prove that Christianity, the way they see it, is the best way to go, they will hinder your growth. And that's why a lot of these people run behind politicians, because they got something from them. They chose them. So now they are a team. But if you question them, you kicked off the team. I was kicked off the team. I ain't never joined the team, but I like some of the people, but they kicked me off the team because I'm questioning, what are you really doing? Because I know some of your dirt. Arrested development. This was a great topic with 5:55 in. I thank Almighty God for giving me the strength to do it. Let me read this real quickly. Question. So how do individuals get to the place where they are stuck emotionally? What does it take to keep someone from progressing normally? In general, there are only a few different ways that people from progressing, different ways that people from progressing in emotional maturity. The first is trauma in an event or experience, and the second is the inability to express due to ignorance or insolence. Trauma is both a car crash and a continual lack of food in the home. We all went through that in the Black community. I heard a Jewish college professor say today that he teaches son, winners always win. Our parents don't teach us nothing but get out there and get a job, and you got to survive it. Don't complain and be grateful for what you got. But they go straight for the top. And one of their main rules is always cheat. Only lose if you have to. That is a written rule amongst the upper echelon. Always cheat. So they cheated building America. They brought freed people and enslaved them because their lazy behinds didn't want to build nothing. Now they are the master builders. They didn't want to cut their own grass. Now you see them around here with 12 lawnmowers on the trailer. A whoop. We cut the grass. We trim the trees. Now they want to take it over. Woo. Come on, man. Because their world is an open path where no matter how poor you are, they can go. Nobody likes the black man. He don't even like himself. Not the rich one, not the poor one. Not the preacher, because he don't teach no black God. He teaches a white God, the God that brought him here. Not the politician, because they work for special interest groups, which are mostly Caucasian. Not the businesses either. But they will prance themselves amongst us because they are the white person in the absence of white people. I'm telling you what I know, not bitter. I'm the guy that they kicked out. I'm the camera guy, the only one after Sam Levy, rest his soul. I was him before Ketty, before 5 Star. I was at the private meetings. I heard the private talk. I made it very clear that I wouldn't tell nothing, and I'm not going to tell nothing. Arrested development. It's real. Read this, then I'm going to close. The first is a trauma in an event of experience, and the second is the inability to express due to ignorance or insolence. Trauma is both a car crash and a continual lack of food in the home. One is an event that is easily remembered, and the other is an understanding of the need for survival. In a passive sense, arrested development can occur when someone is not given the skills or support that they need to process emotions. White folks said, you can work for me, but I'll never teach you. The intelligent black folks worked for them and learned. How do you think there became black masons? A black man who was a janitor, Prince Hall, snuck into the meeting, learned the rituals, didn't really learn the completion of the understanding of the rituals, but he started the Prince Hall Masons. Those were the ones who were willing to take a chance to give us something that we didn't have. I'm closing. Arrested development can occur when someone is not given the skills or support that they need to process emotions, or they decide that it is worth it to remain stagnant to gain responses they want from others. Some people like being pitiful. Some people I just told my psychiatrist yesterday, when she was asking me all the things that was wrong with me. And I'm telling her, and she's like, well, you don't look like that. I said, I don't want to look like that. I don't want people feeling sorry for me. I don't want that kind of attention. I will only tell a person my condition when it may harm me in some way when they ask me to do something. Other than that, I don't want you to know. And I share it with people to let you know that we can all strive to do better. In short, arrested development, in closing, arises when someone is unable or unwilling to protect, take care of, or address the emotional vulnerabilities they are experiencing. We don't protect our mind. We don't protect our children's mind. We let them do whatever they want and we do it. Well, I sell drugs, so I don't see nothing wrong with them selling drugs. You crazy as hell. And you don't see nothing wrong with them doing what you doing that made you crazy as hell? Come on, man. I'm closing. Take care of, address the emotional vulnerability they are experiencing. Been in church all your life and crazy as hell. Still ain't got no husband. Shouting every Sunday, talking about you ain't need no man, but you're going to bring your child into that and make her not have sex. Make her not know what sex is. Don't you worry about that. Jesus is your husband. As crazy as we want to be. This can be due to concerns for physical safety or emotional expressions. For instance, a child who finds themselves in an environment that threatens their bodily autonomy or ability to explore openly, a block can occur emotionally if they experience fear that develops into trauma responses. I'm going to close there. I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is Jamil Salib Zamir. I encourage you to look up Arrested Development because I got pages of it. I researched the internet because there is no book about it. And I would love to put it in a book because it is a psychological impediment. And it is an umbrella over many other psychological issues that can flourish, including PTSD, narcissism, psychopathic tendencies, and all of that. And all of it is in us. There are over 250 or more different mental illnesses that a person can suffer from and don't even know it. But if you take a close look at yourself, we have an identity crisis. We don't want to be ourselves. We have paid $10,000 for a BBL, but won't pay $500 to get the car fixed that gets us to work. We're going to go and pimp for that, prostitute for that. Crazy. We got to do better. Prayer, we need it. We must pray together and constantly. Our children are demonic. And they're getting to a point where they don't want to come back. They're happy where they are. They're happy. When you get an alcoholic who says, I'm never going to stop drinking, that's it. And when you get a person who joins a gang at 10 and they damn near in the grave and they still throwing up gang signs, they're done. Cirrhosis of the mind. But this time, they're going to take everybody with them. Satan says he's going to take as many of God's people as he can. And God told him, take as many as you can. Just don't touch my servant Job. Read the book. Satan says, I'm looking for souls to devour. God said, cool. Have you considered my servant Job? You can do what you want to him, but don't touch his soul. We Job. And our women are Jobelettes. And all those trying to find righteousness are Jobelines. All right. Thank everybody for tuning in. Jamil Salib Zamir, Manning, South Carolina.